Okay, hi you guys, this is Angie with Beauties and the Bigfoot, and today is Tuesday, May 6th. And tonight I have a story for you guys that was given to me by a client of a friend, and I just got off the phone with him a little bit ago. So I'm going to share that with you guys, and then I have a pretty cool story of my own that literally just happened. So we'll get to that too. I'm going to refer to my notes here. Okay, so this anonymous, he wanted to remain anonymous, but he did say that I could share the location. And the location is Metamora, Michigan. And this happened, he had 2 sightings. And yes, he was a hunter back in the day. And this was about 34 years ago, and let me tell you, when he was recounting this story, he was recounting it like it happened yesterday. That's how burned into your memory when you have these encounters that it is. It just, you don't forget. You just don't forget. So he was, like I said, a hunter. And he was catching fox. So he was setting up trap lines after work. And he had just got done setting those trap lines and was heading back. And it was dark. It was about 11 p.m. And he heard these pick sounds. So he thought a wild boar or a hog or something was in the area. So he walked towards the sounds. And when he went towards the sounds, whatever was making the sounds heard or smelled him, and it stood up. He was within about 7 feet from the Bigfoot. And he said they looked at each other, and he said this thing stood about 8 feet tall. He said there was no smell, and he had a sidearm. So he put his hand on his sidearm, and he had the thought, this is gonna do no good whatsoever. So he took his hand off the gun. And when I asked him, because we all know that the Bigfoot will mind speak, I said, do you think that was your thought, or do you think that was mind speak from the Bigfoot telling you, don't even bother, that's not going to do any good? And he said, oh, it was definitely my own thought. And he said he was very, very, very uncomfortable. He said it was a dark figure. He couldn't tell whether it was male or it was female. It had 0 smell. There was no smell to it whatsoever. And he said it stood up, and they looked at each other. And I forgot to ask him for, I forgot the Pepper making her appearance. I forgot to ask him for how long that they may have stared at each other, but I don't think it was for a very long time. And as you know, a lot of these encounters are quick. They're like within a minute to 5 minutes, and that's the majority of the encounters that people have. They're very quick. So he said that it had no neck, and it had a basketball-sized head. And he said, people don't know how massive that these Bigfoot are. They are just huge, and you can't even fathom it until you come that close to him, that close to them, or even far away. You can kind of judge how big they are. Like if they're maybe a yard or 2 away, you still can gauge the height and the mass of these. They're just enormous. Like I said, Olaf is my size and about 2 of me. they're massive, and they're very, very strong. So he said that they both turned away and they both walked in opposite directions. Now, he actually went to the police and made a report, and the officer went back to the location with him to try and find this Bigfoot. And when they got to the tree where the Bigfoot was, and the officer shined his flashlight down there, they found a stash of vegetables on the ground. So that pig noise that was being made was the Bigfoot eating these vegetables. And we've talked before about how they're hoarders. And it was funny because I never said anything to him about the Bigfoot hoarding. And he said, I don't know if this thing, and he called it a thing. I prefer not to call them things, but sometimes I slip and I do. He said this thing he thinks was gathering these vegetables and was hoarding it by this tree. And that's where he kept it. And he used the word hoard. So that's when I told him, yeah, I know them to be hoarders. They hoard things. So that's just, a second confirmation of my theory that they are hoarders. So he said that the officer thought he was crazy, of course, and didn't believe him, but couldn't explain the vegetables around the tree and how they were half eaten. Now, not having the wherewithal in his mind to grab the fruit or the vegetables, because there would have been saliva or hair or something on there. At this point, he was so uncomfortable, he just wanted to leave. And to this day, and he's about 80 years old, and this was about, I think he said he was around 34. So that would have been like, maybe he was 34 years old, or it was 34 years ago. I can't remember which one he said, but he's around 80 now. And he said, never been back in the woods since, which is common. That's not uncommon, and that's what I told him. Your reaction is totally, completely normal. And he has never told anybody about this encounter before other than his family and the officer. So his second encounter was about 20 years ago. So he would have been around 60. And it was in the car with his granddaughter. And he was going down Lake George Road north of 69. And he saw two black, it was still light enough out to be able to see a color, two black Bigfoot come out of the cornfield, cross the road, and go into the woods. He said both of these Bigfoot never looked to see if traffic was coming, never stopped, never hesitated to cross. They just walked across the road, not bothered by the fact that there was a car there watching them, not bothered by the fact that oncoming traffic was coming towards them. I believe Lake George Road is a dirt road. And he said they were both about 7 feet tall. One was a little bit shorter than the other one, so I'm imagining 7 and like 6. So it sounds like it might have been a younger Bigfoot with maybe possibly a juvenile. So he said what he noticed, and he told me this like 4 times. He said They were well groomed, were his exact words. He just couldn't get over how well groomed they were. And that was what stuck in his head. So he couldn't tell whether they were male or female. But aside from the fact that they were well groomed, the other thing he kept saying is, they never acknowledged me. They never looked at the car. They never looked both ways to see if traffic was coming. They just walked out of the cornfield and right into the road and across the road and into the woods. So that was another thing that those two things stuck out to him, the well-groomed and the fact that they never even were bothered by the traffic or acknowledged that he was even there. They just kept walking, and he said they were walking at a normal pace. It wasn't like a slow moving like some of them do. It wasn't a fast-paced like we know they're capable of. It was just a normal gait going across this road. So that was fantastic, and I love, love, love hearing you guys' stories and other people's stories about their encounters with our forest friends. It's amazing to me. So if you guys have encounters, feel free to email me at beautiesandthebigfoot@outlook.com, and I will talk about them like I'm talking about the anonymous poster's encounter. Now, the other thing that happened was a couple weeks, maybe not even a couple weeks, it was like probably a week ago. I have a very close relationship with a little juvenile that is around me, and his name is Olaf. And the mind speak came through. I was sitting on the couch, I don't know what I was doing, and the mind speak came through. I'm so bored, I have nothing to do. And I suggested, okay, do this. No, don't want to do that. Okay, go do this, go play in the creek. Was one of the things that no, I don't want to go play in the creek. So I told him, all right, this is what I want you to do for me. I want you to go find me a white rock and leave it someplace where you know that I will find it. He got all excited. Okay, I'm going to go find a white rock. I'm going to go find a white rock. He had a mission. He had a purpose. He loved it. So I was waiting, and I didn't have a white rock. I didn't have a white rock. I thought, well, maybe I missed it somewhere. And then I forgot about it. Well, I had finished talking to the anonymous poster, and I was going out to lock my garage and just shut things up for the night and just kind of, buckle down for the evening. And on my back patio, in the middle of the patio, is this white rock. And as you can see, let me get there, it's kind of in the shape of a heart, just sitting all by itself. I can't get this right. I can't. Let me see. There you go. See, it's kind of heart-shaped. And it was just sitting in the middle of my patio. And it's like kind of whitish. But to have this just, when it was in the sun, it looked a lot whiter than it looks right now. But to have that sitting in the middle of my patio, I knew. And the fact that it was kind of shaped like a heart, how do you, how do they think like that? It's amazing to me. So that's what happened to me tonight. So I found that white rock all by itself sitting in the middle of my patio in between my garage and my house. Of course, off to the side of my Ring doorbell. Not that the Ring doorbell is going to catch them anyway, because very rarely will it catch them, because they can avoid them easily by, like, I don't know how they do it. They just do it. So anyway, I hope you guys are doing well, and if you have any encounters that you would like to share with me, feel free, like I said, to email me or put them in the comments section, and I will do my best to get those out here and get those on. And I do have another subject that I want to talk about, and we will talk about that tomorrow. All right, you guys have a great evening, and thank you for being on my channel with me. I appreciate it a lot. All right, you guys, bye.